Hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday. I hope you're having a great start to your week. Is everyone ready for Halloween? I have my Halloween sweatshirt on, so I'm getting in the spirit. We have a few days left. So hopefully, if you are creating those costumes, you're in the home stretch. If you're still thinking about costumes, we have some great quick and easy sort of last minute costumes you can throw together using your sewing talents over on the Sulky blog at blog.sulky.com. There are some masks you can create with some cute applique. There's a quick cape you can create if you want to just throw something on and go out with the kids trick-or-treating. It's great to be in the spirit with them, you know? My kids this year are all going as sharks. So that was pretty fun, putting together some fins and things like that, using some felt. They're kind of at the age where they like the store-bought costumes. Ugh, I know. What? But I still like to add a little something to make it a little homemade, make it stand out from the others. So for the shark costumes, we like to add a little bit of glowy thread, or add our own little, felty fins, things like this. So at any rate, they have a theme going. It's pretty cute. I will be wearing a lifeguard sweatshirt, so you get the idea. I'm saving humanity from the sharks that are my children. So that's the theme this year. Let me know what your theme is if you have one. I would love to know. Halloween is my favorite. Okay, so not only am I celebrating Halloween, I've also got Christmas going on. If you tuned in to So What last week, you saw me at the Sulky warehouse. And so you got a little inside scoop or a peek into the goings on behind the scenes at Sulky. And we presented our Christmas collage table runner. So now that I am back home in my studio, you can see mine hanging behind me. As you know, I like to use table runners in lots of different ways. I will hang it up as a wall hanging. Actually, I think this one will look really great vertical, on a door, next to a door, maybe in an entryway. So you can think about these projects in different ways. You don't always have to put them on your table, or you can have them on your table for a little while, and then when you want to change things up, hang it on the wall by your hot cocoa bar, something like this. We do have a few of these kits left, miraculously. So you could still grab up a Christmas collage table runner kit if you would like to make your version of this project. And it does come with lots of different inspiration for different ways to make the table runner your own. So you don't have to make my version, of course. As with most of our sewing projects, you can quite quickly and easily change up the dimensions and all sorts of things. Sorry, I'm trying to get organized here because as your comments are coming in, they're so incredibly small that my eyeballs cannot read them. I need a magnifying glass. I think this is a sign that I am aging. All right, now I can see things though. Hello, Betsy. Good to see you. Yes, a lot of people are saying it's getting cold in your neck of the woods, and that is happening to us too. I think we had our first freeze overnight last night. So, it wouldn't be Halloween if we didn't have to cover up our costumes with a, winter coat, right? And then when we plan a costume that's super warm, we end up having like a 75-degree evening. So you just can't win sometimes. But anyways, it's fun to get out there and trick or treat. I'm really looking forward to it because I don't know how many years I'll have left to at least accompany my children as they go out into the world in their cute costumes. So I'm enjoying every last minute of it. All right, let's see. Oh, Linda is waiting for her kit to arrive. Love that. It's such beautiful fabrics. I love the vintage quality of these fabrics and kind of the muted tones. I think this is the color scheme that I'm going to go with for my holiday decorating this year. Um, I love sort of the neutral background, and then you can have pops of color and pops of sparkle. So that's kind of what I'm going with this year. We shall see. All right. Let's see. I have a couple of other things to discuss before we get into today's project. Maureen says, just got my kit. The fabric feels so nice. Thank you for letting me know. Love that. And Linda says, I always dress the kids with thermals under their costumes. Yes, if you happen to have a costume with room, right? That's always a good idea. Make your costume or buy an extra large costume so that you can wear something underneath it if you need to. Okay. So who out there is joining me on this Greece tour? I'm so excited to hear from you. I know there are a couple of ladies coming on this tour that have joined me on previous tours. Our London tour a couple of years ago. So I'm really, really excited to see them again. And let me know if you're coming along. I don't get the list of registrants really until quite towards the end. And even then, sometimes it's just first names. They do, they run a very well-oiled machine there at Craft Tours, and privacy is of the utmost importance. So let me know if you will be joining me in Greece in the spring of 2026. And if you are not aware of this tour yet, head on over to the link that I put in the description of today's post. You can read all about our Greece tour and even still get on a payment plan so that you can join us in May of 2026. We're going to be doing all the quintessential things that you think about when you think of a tour through Greece. It's going to be very Mamma Mia. I'm excited. No, I won't sing. Don't worry. I mean, I might sing to myself, but we'll try to contain as much of that as we can. If you've gone on one of our Christmas market tours, it's very difficult for me not to sing most of the Sound of Music when I am in Austria. But you can definitely choose to go off on your own and not be subjected to my musical theater background. I was in the Sound of Music twice, different roles each time. And so, yes, I get very excited when we're in Austria and we are around the Abbey, and when, we go up to where the Von Trapp family sang their last time. That theater is right there in Austria, and I just can't help myself. So I apologize in advance if you're coming along to our Christmas market tour in a couple of months. It's really approaching quickly. I'm so excited to go back. But anyway, Greece is also going to be absolutely incredible. I hope you will come along. And if Greece isn't your thing, we have a few trips planned for later in 2026 as well as 2027. And I'm really looking forward to getting those up on the site so you can check them out. I can't wait to tell you all about these locations. We always try to, of course, bring you back to the Sulky motherland in Germany so that you can experience that factory tour, which is never open to the public, and see exactly how Sulky thread is made and manufactured. It's really, really fascinating. So, of course, we always want to give that opportunity to you to experience that. But we also like to throw in some other bucket list locations as well so that you can travel with people that you know and trust. And you get a great Sulky workshop during our travels anywhere that we go. So I'm excited to share those with you. Put some travel on your wish list for the holidays. I don't know about you, but people are always like, they don't know how to shop for me. I don't know how that is because I like so many things. But I get it. When you get to a certain age, I think, you just buy things for yourself when you want them. So when it comes to a gift giving holiday, people might not really know what to get for you. And so why don't they just chip in and send you to Greece, send you to Germany, send you to these great locations on these sulky tours? Would that be amazing? I mean, that is an experience is so much better than material things, unless it's piles of thread and fabric. Am I right? All right, just putting that out there. Let's see. Lots of people coming in with their costumes. I love these stories. Elephant with big floppy ears. Had trouble holding her head up. I love that. Those are the stories that really make Halloween so memorable and so awesome for kids growing up. You have those memories forever, whether you could hold your head up from the heavy ears or not. Love that. All right, so let's get to today's project because I know that we haven't even had Halloween, but we are, closing in on it here. So it really is time to think about the holidays. Think about what you want to create for your handmade gifts. What you want to create for your decorations. Kind of take inventory of what you already have, maybe what needs to be retired or passed down. And then how to kind of supplement those items, what you want to bring in. I like to make something new every year, whether it's a new tree skirt or a table runner or a quilted throw or a placemat set, something like that, just to kind of add to the decor, whether it goes with the things you bring out year over year or not. So be thinking about those things. And if you need some inspiration, first off, you're here on So What, so I'm happy to provide that here live. But also, we have a great holiday planner at sulky.com. So it's a holiday sewing planner, and you can grab it up for free at sulky.com. It's a PDF download. So you do need to add it to your cart, go through the checkout process. It will say $0, and then you just check out and you can download it from your sulky.com account. Once you download it, you can print it off if you like, or you can use the digital copy on your tablet, your phone, your computer, what have you, and it can help you plan out your holiday sewing. It's got some ideas in there, some links, some helpful products that you might need as you are thinking about how to plan for your holiday sewing. So I highly suggest you grab that up. It's actually very, very popular on our website. So that brings me joy that it's bringing you joy. And I hope that you've grabbed it up already. But if not, it will take you through week by week. We started mid-October, so there are a couple of pages you won't need anymore as we get down into, starting November this weekend, right? So you can print off those pages and you will have a week-by-week glimpse into how to prepare for the upcoming holiday season with your sewing. It includes gift ideas. It includes decor ideas. There are even some links for wearables if you want to embroider something to wear over the holidays, make some pajama pants for the kids, things like this. So grab that up at sulky.com. Part of what is included in there is also today's project because it makes a really, really great gift. You can create these assembly line style with the help of the Acuquilt Go fabric cutter. If you don't have a fabric cutter, you can still create this project. You'll just need to obviously cut your pattern pieces yourself. I'm going to show you how to use the Acuquilt cutter with dies that go with this pattern. And you'll see just how quickly and easily and efficiently it cuts out these pieces. But of course, you could use traditional scissors, a combination of rotary cutter, mat, and ruler with some scissors as well will give you some accurate cuts. I just wanted to show you this using the fabric cutter because first and foremost, I love using it. And quite honestly, I don't have enough of a library of dies yet to really use it as much as I think I can or should. But I'm starting to accumulate them, and they are so amazing to have on hand. For example, I'm also doing an upcoming project featuring hexagons of different sizes. And as you know, hexagons are a little bit fiddly to cut yourself if you don't have, a quilter's hexagon ruler template. If you're working with a paper template, or even if you're just trying to cut an accurate hexagon using your rotary cutter and clear ruler, it's really hard to get all of those sizes, or all of those sides rather, to match up, to be perfect, right? Well, if you have a cutting system like an Acuquilt fabric cutter, some of you might have a scan and cut, things like this, you can create these hexagons, half square triangle pieces that have seam allowances included. You can even cut binding strips in bulk so that with one pass of the cutter, you can have enough binding to bind an entire quilt. You can grab up the Acuquilt dies for different shapes, like birds, which is what we've done in the past with our kitchen stitching webcast that we did earlier this year. All sorts of things, all sorts of dies exist for these cutting systems. So I stumbled upon the Lucky Penny Wallet dies. Now, the Lucky Penny Wallet is a pattern by Sally Tomato, which, as you all know, Sally Tomato and Sulky are like BFFs, okay? Every year we do our New Year's Eve sew-along together. We did our Sabrina bag session together a couple of months ago. Let me know if you've made yours because I would love to see it. I've seen several of the Sabrina bags in different quilting styles and things like this on our Facebook group, which is Stitch and Post. I love seeing your finished creations. But at any rate, we have collaborated with Sally Tomato for many, many years now. So when I saw this Lucky Penny Wallet in an Acuquilt die, I was like, must have, must try, must use Sulky thread for this. And I've already made 4 of them using one of the unique fabrics out there, Craft Tex by C&T Publishing. So all of this combined together in this magical moment for me because I have a bunch of Craft Tex on hand, also from a previous collaboration that we did with C&T Publishing. So I just thought Craft Tex meets Sally Tomato meets Acuquilt. Sulky has to be in the mix as well. So we're all coming together, all of those brands, to bring you this product, or this project rather, featuring all sorts of these products. So you can use any no-fray fabric for this wallet that you like. Craft Tex looks really cool. It's a paper fabric hybrid that looks like faux leather. I think it works really, really great for things like wallets, key fobs, smaller types of projects, notebook covers, things like that. You can embroider on it. You can sew it. You can fuse things onto it. It can take moderate heat from an iron. It's amazing, amazing stuff. I'm actually going to grab a pack of it because that happens to be our giveaway today for one lucky viewer who is watching and commenting and doing all of those great things that you know you need to do to be automatically eligible to win today's gift, which is coming from C&T Publishing It is a pack of Craftex valued at $29.95. And Denise, yes, it is Craftex craft paper fabric. All right. It is hand dyed. It is pre-washed, and it comes in a variety of colors. So with one pack like this, which is a 18.5 by 28.5 inch roll, our giveaway today is actually a multicolored pack of Craftex, so a little bit different from this. But with this, you can get probably 2 wallets at least from this. All right. And the other thing I like about using the Acuquilt dies to cut this out is it really helps you conserve the fabric, because the dies are positioned in a way that allows you to cut a small piece, position it right on the die that you need. And this is non-directional, right? So you can even move your Craftex piece around to get the most out of your fabric. Okay? So Craftex is what I used for my Lucky Penny wallet, but you could also use cork fabric. You could use faux leather fabric, things like this. Micro suede fabric would be really pretty for this wallet as well. Anything that doesn't fray, because the edges of the wallet are actually meant to be left raw. However, as with most of my sewing projects, I added my tweaks to it, and I decided to add some binding to the wallet, really just to reinforce the outer edge and add a pop of color to my finished wallet. So I'm going to show you that little hack today, because if you're using the Acuquilt fabric cutter, and I use the Acuquilt Go, which has a hand crank on it, but Acuquilt also has an electric one that you can just push a button and your die will run right through it. So you don't even have to do the hand cranking if you don't want to. Yes, and there are different sizes of the Acuquilt Go as well. So you can check that out. I link directly to the fabric cutters in the description of today's post. So be sure to hit that little see more button, or it might say more depending on where you're watching from. The whole description will then pop out and you'll see featured products, and you'll find links for everything I'm talking about today, including the Go fabric cutter as well as the Lucky Penny dies. You'll also find a link for the Lucky Penny wallet pattern. If you want to grab up that pattern and use more traditional cutting methods, scissor and rotary cutter combo, you can grab up that pattern from Sally Tomato. And then I also linked to the Sulky products that I'm using for my wallet, which is Sulky Poly Deco Thread. And I'm going to show you that in action here. First, however, oops, we already talked about that. Here is what the die set looks like. All right. So for this wallet, you actually need 2 dies. This is the die that has all the pocket pieces on it. And the strip at the bottom is actually for a, what would you call it? Like a little strap almost, that keeps the flap of the wallet closed. Instead of using that piece, you could opt for a magnetic snap, which is what I used, or you can use a turn lock closure, which is what's featured in the photo of this wallet here on the Go cutter. So you can use a variety of closures. You can certainly omit that strip at the bottom of this die and place your fabric above it to, again, conserve fabric and not have a piece that you're not going to use. You could also use a magnetic snap and put that strap piece on the wallet for just additional security as well. Winnie is asking, where do you get Craftex? I linked directly to where to get Craftex in the description of today's post. So you can click on that link and check out some options. Whether you want a variety pack that has different colors, I think this wallet actually looks really cool in a couple of different colors. You can do the outer pieces in one color of Craftex and the inside pockets in another. Or you could do it all out of the same color, which is what I did. And then I added that decorative binding. I actually used pre-made bias binding. I know, but you could also obviously make your own too. I'll show you that a little bit. All right, so this is one die that you need. And here is what it looks like outside of the packaging. That top piece, which is that curved pattern piece, that becomes a pocket for your cards. You're going to stitch down the center of that, and you have 2 slots for placing your credit cards. You actually need to cut that piece twice, but what's really cool about the Acuquilt is you can cut that piece out of 2 layers of Craftex through one pass of the cutting machine. So what you'll want to do is cut your Craftex or whatever fabric you're using, place a square of that fabric over the die, and then you'll place another rectangle of fabric just over that piece, just over that section. You could actually place just that little rectangle first and then the bigger piece over the top so that you're sure to get that piece across the entire die. Then you'll put your cutting mat over the top and slide it through the machine, and you'll get 2 of the top piece and then the rest of the card holders cut out at once. All right, so here's kind of what it looks like as it's going through the machine, but obviously you need your fabric on top and your cutting mat before sliding it through. I'll show you that in a minute. This is what the second die looks like that you need. So it has the back of the wallet, and then it has the inside front of the wallet with those slots already cut out for you. So this is what I love about using the Acuquilt for this pattern. It's very difficult to go in and slice open those slot openings on that piece. And since we're not finishing the edges, right? This is a no fray fabric where we're not finishing the edges of this. You can either use those slot openings for zippers, or you can keep them open and slide your cash or the edge of your credit card book, your checkbook inside of those slots. So you have options there as well. It's really hard to get into those corners and not snip beyond where we need to go. So the Acuquilt just cuts those out for you. You have your slots that are perfectly measured with no, overcutting or snips into those corners. All right. And yes, Gail, if you don't have an Acuquilt, you can just cut the pieces out using the pattern by Sally Tomato. I'm just showing you how the Acuquilt works because I think it's just really, really neat that they have these dies for this particular pattern. So after your items are cut, which I'll show you how I did mine, they just lift right off of the cutter. You'll take the excess off and you have your beautifully cut pieces. And there would be the back and interior of the second die. All right. So that's kind of the Acuquilt Go product in a nutshell, but I'll show you what it looks like when I was using Craftex to cut it. It does cut, I believe it says up to 4 layers of fabric at a time. So Craftex is obviously a little bit thicker than your typical quilting cotton would be, but you can cut those 2 layers at once through the Acuquilt Go cutter. So as I mentioned, when you want to do that upper card slot piece and you want to cut it twice, you'll just layer 2 pieces over that particular area of the die and then 1 piece over the others. Susie says, can you cut vinyl and leather? I haven't tried cutting actual leather like hide, but I have cut faux leather out of it. And yes, that goes through the cutter perfectly fine. Because what's happening is, as I said, you'll sorry to reiterate, but just to make sure, because those pictures, it's kind of hard to see. I'm just going to use this random Christmas fabric that I have sitting next to me. You'll have your die. You'll place your fabric over the die. You can do right side up, wrong side up. Honestly, it really doesn't matter. Unless you have a directional die, and then the directions in your pattern will tell you. All right, so then you'll have your fabric. It'll be cut to size. You won't have all this yardage hanging off. And then you have to place your cutting mat over the top. You'll place your cutting mat over the top, sandwiching your fabric, and then this goes through the cutting machine. Then when it comes out, you'll lift your fabric up, the outer fabric, and you'll have your perfectly cut hexagons, birds, lucky penny wallet pieces, all the things. So since you have the protection of this cutting mat going over the top of whatever fabric you choose, it is allowing you to cut through lots of different types of materials. I have cut through paper solvy, probably about 8 layers of it at a time. Paper solvy is incredibly thin, water-soluble paper that we use for English paper piecing, foundation paper piecing, things like this. I've cut through like 8 layers of that using these hexagon dies to make paper piecing kits, English paper piecing, things like this. I've cut through the faux leather because once you get this cutting mat over the top, it's protecting that faux leather as it goes through the cutting machine. Cuts it beautifully. Cork, as I mentioned, layers of quilting cotton go through it so nicely. It's just a really, I mean, if you're creating even, I would say even just one quilt that is using a bunch of hexagons or using a bunch of shapes for applique, this thing starts paying for itself. Let me tell you, you get to the sewing so much faster, right? We spend so much of our time in the sewing room cutting. Maybe they should call it cutting instead of sewing. No, but you get the idea, right? We get to the sewing a lot faster. Denise says it cuts up to 6 layers of quilting cotton. Amazing. Love that. And Sue says, I've made 4 or 5 of these wallets from kits because cutting them out isn't that easy. I need one of those cutters. I know, I'm telling you, it's so handy. All right. And Tweety says, never heard of Craftex. Always good to learn of new to me products. Yes. Craftex is super unique. Once you get the feel of it, it's just, you can create some really cool things with it. All right, so let's get to it. Here is what my die looks like. I put it on the bed of my Acuquilt Go cutter, and then I'm placing my Craftex over the top of this piece. So there's my Craftex. It is, it looks a little bit wrinkly. It's supposed to. It's supposed to look like rugged leather, right? But it is really more of a paper than a fabric, all right? You can even crumple it up even more in your hands and then just give it a little bit of heat from a dry iron to sort of flatten it out, all right? So then you place your cutting mat over the top of that and you will run it through your cutter. If you have the hand crank, it's really not that difficult to do the hand crank. It's not like you're giving it a whole bunch of muscle. You're just, leisurely cranking it through the machine, and it's going to cut all of those pieces out. The blades are actually inside of here, in between these layers. Okay, if I press I can run my finger over this, nothing's going to cut me. I can't feel the blades at all. But if you were to press down in there, then you could feel the blades. I don't recommend doing that. You could cut yourself. So don't do that. All right. But that's how it's cutting it. Okay. The pressure of running it through that cutter with the rollers on it, the pressure of that is like punching out these pieces, like a hole punch. So that's how it works. All right. Once here I am just running it through the cutter. You can see the roller is pressing all of those layers down into the cutter. And then when it comes out, you lift the excess craft text away, and I have my first 2 pattern pieces ready to go. I'm just telling you what, having those cutouts, either for zippers or for the openings for your cash or checkbook, so helpful, saves so much time, and it ensures that you're not going to have to recut that piece if you accidentally veer off course, it's not straight, you've cut into the corners, you get the idea. All right, so here's my second die. As I mentioned, you need 2 dies for the Lucky Penny wallet. So these are all my card slot holders, my little pockets. And that strip is the strap that you tuck the top of the wallet in. I cut that just in case I wanted it, and then I didn't end up using it because I used the magnetic snap closure. All right, so here I have this piece. Then I do the same process of layering my craft text or whatever no fray fabric you're going to use, putting my cutting mat over the top, and then running it through the machine. So here you could see all those pieces so nicely and accurately cut out and ready to sew. All right. I also want to mention that the Go fabric cutter that I have, so it lays out flat, of course, when you're using it, and then you just fold it up, and it has a handle, and you can store it in your sewing room. It doesn't take up all this room. Shall I show you what it looks like? Would everyone like to see what it looks like when it's folded up? I will just grab it really quickly. I should have had these things next to me, but that's okay. It's so easy to transport that it's really not a big deal. It's on the heavier side, but I can lift it up with one hand. So here's what it looks like. It just has this handle at the top. Here's my hand crank on the side. So pretty slim, right? You could slide this in between a cabinet or a bookshelf. I have it on a little shelf by my pressing area. And then when you open it up, here's your surface. It'll open up flat on your cutting surface. There's the little roller inside. So I love that, I always want to add things to my sewing room. I always want to get more machines for some odd reason. I'm obsessed. Call me obsessed. But, I don't want these things that are just going to clutter up my working space, right? So I really appreciate the slim profile that this has as well. That's one of the things I love about my light box too, is it's so flat and slim, and I can just slide it in next to my cutting table, and it's always there when I need it. I don't have to store it in a box and put it in the top of my closet and then forget about it, and then it doesn't get any play in the sewing room. That's not the point of these things, right? So I just wanted to, show you how easy you can add that to the things that you have and not have it take up like a huge amount of space. I actually got a little rolling cart from IKEA, and my Acuquilt Go cutter goes on the top, and then I'm starting to gather up more dies as I use it more and more, and realize that it's, benefiting my sewing, saving me time, all these things. So I'm starting to put the dies on the other shelves, and they kind of stick out of the ends, some of them that are longer, but I have a little label maker, and I put little labels on the edges so that I can stack them, and then I can find the ones that I need. I know. See, I actually am organized sometimes. When I start off being organized, it's easier to keep it up. It's when I don't do it from the start, and then I have to spend all this time, getting everything in check. So anyway, that's my system. That's how it works for me in my room. And My cart has little wheels on it, so when I do have a project using it, I can just grab it from where it is, pull it out, get all the use out of it, put everything back, and then wheel it back to the side of my pressing area. So that's what works for me. That might work in a closet or something that you have. You can just keep everything for your Acuquilt on a little rolling cart and then bring it out when you want to use it, and it's there for you ready to go. I think I'm going to create a cute little quilty cover for it as well, just to kind of keep it from getting dusty and things, but I'm starting to use it so much that it might not gather dust. We'll see. All right, let's see. Okay. The cutter is so cool. It really is. And Pamela says, that's the cutter I have. Love it. Easy storage for it. Perfect. Okay. And yes, thank you. Jean says, Sally Tomato also offers SVG files for this Lucky Penny wallet for those of you that have other cutters. Thank you for mentioning that. Yes, if you have a different type of cutter that does kind of the same thing in a different way, some of them are, they like the scan and cut, right? You can scan something and then send it to the machine and it will cut it out rather than having all of these dies. There are all sorts of different fabric cutters out there on the market. All right. So after we've cut all of these pieces, I just kind of want to show you what I did, and it might be helpful for you for tips for creating your Lucky Penny wallet, no matter how you've cut it out, right? So now we're into the sewing phase. We have our pieces cut and ready to start assembling. So you will obviously follow the directions in the pattern. This is not a sulky pattern, it's a Sally Tomato pattern. So you'll need to either grab that pattern from Sally Tomato. They have a paper pattern or a digital pattern. And as someone mentioned, those SVG files, or you can grab up these dies, etc. So once you're ready to start putting it together, I recommend using Sulky Poly Deco thread for constructing this. Whether you're working with the Craftex, the cork fabric, or the faux leather, I recommend the 40 weight Poly Deco thread. 40 weight thread is a little bit heavier from, let's just say, an all-purpose thread, which I say it that way because I hate that term, because thread is really not all-purpose. There is a reason that we choose the type of thread, what it's made of, whether it's cotton, polyester, rayon. There's a reason for all these different thread weights that we create. 12 weight, 30 weight, 50 weight, 40 weight. You get the idea. So 40 weight is going to be a little bit thicker if you are used to working with a more all-purpose weight thread. But that's what we want for these no fray fabrics that are a little bit thicker than, let's say, a quilting cotton. So I was able to find a 40 weight thread color that matched the Craftex absolutely perfectly, so it totally blends into the wallet. If you choose, you can choose a color of thread that totally contrasts the fabric that you're using, and then the thread becomes another decoration for your finished wallet. So completely up to you whether you want your thread to match or contrast. And then if you are going to add binding like I did, you'll also want a color that matches your binding, or contrasts, as it were. All right. So when you are layering the pocket pieces on this particular part of the pattern, very important to use those trusty Wonder Clips, okay? Wonder Clips are, man, whoever first created these or decided to use them for sewing did such a service to our industry. Because back in the day before these great little notions, they come in 2 sizes at sulky.com. We've got these, and then we have these, which are really great for corners, bindings, things like that. So we have a narrow tip, and then we have the wider tip. Both of these available at sulky.com. At any rate, before these, we had to use things like binder clips, which are actually pretty severe when you're working with things like cork fabric. You can kind of indent the fabric if you're using a binder clip because they're just so heavy duty, right? They're used for like packs and packs of paper. Or we had to use lots of tape, things like that to secure our layers of fabric. Because you can't use pins in these types of fabric. Pins will leave permanent holes. We don't want that, of course. So that's where these Wonder Clips come in. So when you're layering these pocket pieces, notice how they don't really overlap each other. They kind of nest next to each other. And that is really to reduce the bulk in your wallet. I think it's just so smartly designed. But you do want to make sure that those little ends of your pocket pieces are lined up perfectly so that you don't have a gap, between them. They should nest and abut each other. Just for security, you could overlap them ever so slightly so that if there is any shifting while you're doing your top stitching, you've accounted for that by overlapping those ends just ever so slightly. So Wonder Clip those, making sure that they are, abutted nicely. Then when you get those kind of situated, you can add your back piece. And notice how many Wonder Clips I am using here. Because, as I said, it's a unfinished or a raw edge project. So we are going to see all of these raw edges of our pocket pieces of the entire project. So you really want to make sure that things do not shift while you're doing your final top stitch of all these layers. And notice I do have my magnetic snap attached here on the inside and then on the other side of the outer piece as well. There are instructions for adding a magnetic snap or different kind of turn lock hardware within the instructions for the pattern. So if you want to use that treatment, there are instructions in the pattern. Or you could use that strap piece, which is what's going to hold your wallet closed. All right. So lots and lots of Wonder Clips are a must. When I did my final top stitching, I actually found it really helpful to use my little laser light that I have on my sewing machine. If you don't have one of those, it's completely fine. But I do suggest putting tape or something like washi tape on your machine bed at that 1/8 inch top stitching mark. That way you can just guide your wallet edge across the edge of your tape, making sure to have that consistent 1/8 inch seam allowance or top stitching allowance, if you will, to go along your entire wallet. Because again, that is going to be seen when you open your wallet, and that's the finishing touch. Okay? So once that's done, essentially your wallet is complete according to the pattern. But I decided to add some binding to my wallet. It adds a pop of color. It does enclose all of those seams. So quite honestly, if your wallet is complete and you're looking at it thinking, oh wow, my stitching wasn't really straight along this area, but my needle just created all these permanent holes, so I can't rip it out. What am I to do? Add some fabric binding to the outer edge. My binding is not Craftex. My binding is purchased, pre-made, bias binding. Now, you may think that cheapens your wallet. You may want to make your own bias binding from a print fabric, would be really cute. Give it a little bit more personality. I do want to mention my binding. So I measured it so that it would be very narrow, so that when I'm using the pockets and things, you still want your credit cards to fit in the pocket. They are measured for a standard credit card. So once you add your binding, you do not want to go into your top stitching allowance too far, or your credit cards won't fit, right? So my binding was a little bit too thick. Credit cards still fit in my wallet, but they're real tight, okay? So keep that in mind. When I made my second and third wallet from this, I actually made some much thinner binding, which I thought I had right next to me. Of course, why? I promise I'm organized most of the time. Anyways, 1/4-inch narrow fold binding worked much better. There was a lot more freedom in those pockets, if you will, for your credit cards to just slip in and out nicely. So keep that in mind. So what I did was I took my binding, I went all around the Lucky Penny wallet, mitering the corners as I got them. You must use bias binding so that it will stretch around those curved edges as well, and clip it within an inch of its life, okay? Clip, clip, clip that binding. The good thing is we've already top stitched the whole wallet, so that's not coming apart, right? But clip it within an inch of its life so that when you are sewing it, you can join those ends nicely rather than like overlapping them. I really encourage you to sew your binding ends together. So leave long binding ends and then stop and start maybe 4 or 5 inches from where those ends meet up, and then stitch them together, trim off the excess, and then you can finish your binding seam. So I switched to a thread color that matched my binding, and I sewed from the edge of my binding that was a little bit longer, a little bit shorter, to ensure that I would catch it on the wrong side. So you can bind this in a way where you enjoy or that you're most comfortable with when you bind other things like quilt projects, okay? If you like to first sew your binding on one side, then wrap it around to the other, and then top stitch it or even hand sew it. I will say hand sewing through the craft text is a bit of a challenge, and it's going to be challenging for faux leather and things like that. So I'd recommend, if you're nervous about top stitching it, choose a blanket stitch. Choose a decorative stitch to machine sew the binding. That way, if you do veer off course from the binding folded edge, you are sure to catch it in some part of your stitching. All right. So if you don't want to do, like a straight stitch, you can choose something like that that's a bit more forgiving. So then you have your finished binding. Again, make it really narrow. Mine's a little bit too wide for this one. It makes it really tight to get into the pockets, but still doable. But I just suggest going a little bit more narrow than I did with this binding. And then you'll fold up your wallet. And if you have a magnetic closure like I did, it will just close quite nicely. And you can even manipulate this a little bit more. So with the craft text, you can put your finished wallet on a flat surface and put a couple books on it for a little while. You can even kind of crease the top and bottom a little bit more with your hands to get it more sort of acclimated to folding into that wallet shape. And that works really, really well with the craft text. You can also do some top stitching along there. I've seen people put some zippers into those card slot openings. If you don't want room for, let's say, a checkbook or large bills and you want it to be more enclosed, you can add some zippers into one or both of those areas or leave them open like I did. So these are just great, great gifts to make and give for the holidays. You can make them in bulk, as I mentioned. You can do them assembly line style. You can do all of the cutting one day, all of the pockets the next day, all of the binding on the last day, and you can really crank these out rather quickly, especially if you have the help of a fabric cutter like the Acuquilt Go. And these dies just make it so, so easy. I think it's super cool that they're doing this with select patterns. And love me some Sally Tomato, so I had to give it a try, and I hope that you guys will too. Anita says you can even fancy that up with sparkly fabrics for a night out clutch. It is a good size, holds lots of cards and things. So Noreen says, will it fit checks? Yes. One of those slots will fit a checkbook. So if you like to carry your checkbook around in a wallet, you should be able to with that slot as well. Just again, if you are adding the binding, make sure it's narrow enough that you can still fit your chosen checkbook inside. So just give it a couple of, tests. All right. And of course, you can do it as written and you don't have to add that binding as well. They look great as is. But I think it's just a great option to have, especially if you get around those corners and your top stitching isn't as great. If you're anything like me, you will look at that top stitching every single time you use the wallet because we're so hard on ourselves as sewers, right? We can forgive, places like Target and things if our stitching isn't correct on our t-shirt, right? But we can't forgive ourselves for that. So let's give ourselves some grace or some binding, right? Let's cover it up. Okay. Winnie says, could you put a zipper pocket on the outside? I suppose you could. You would need to draft that piece yourself and do some testing, but sure, why not? You could also add some machine embroidery to that little flap part, right? Craftex embroiders beautifully, and I actually have a tutorial on the Sulky blog on how to embroider Craftex, the designs that you should choose, thread, needle, and stabilizer combinations that work well for Craftex. So you can head on over to blog.sulky.com, and in the search bar, you can put in Craftex or embroidery on Craftex, and you will find that post, and it will be helpful for you if you want to add a little monogram to this or personalize it for the recipient using machine embroidery. And that would obviously work great on cork or faux leather fabrics as well. All right. Denise says, I would love adding the embroidery. Betsy thinks it's so cute. Thank you. Love that. And Denise says this would be really pretty in a printed cork. Absolutely. So it's a really, really great pattern, easy to navigate, easy to sew, great for a beginner, wonderful with the use of these dies. You can check out the dies. Just follow the link I put in the description of today's post. And remember, all you have to do is like us on Facebook if you're watching there, or subscribe to our YouTube channel if you're watching there, and somehow engage with the post today, and you could win a pack of Craftex paper-like fabric from C&T Publishing, valued at $29.95. That is today's gift for one lucky viewer who is somehow engaging with those posts, with today's post. And you can find all of the links to the featured products that I talked about today in the description of today's post as well, where you will also find a link to join us on our Greece tour in 2026 in partnership with Craft Tours. You can check that tour out by following the link in today's post. So I hope you all have a spooky Halloween this Friday. I hope that you have all of your Halloween decor sewn. I hope all of your costumes are made so that you're not up until the wee hours on Thursday night. But if you are, I hope you have fun at the sewing machine as well. Happy Halloween, and I will see you all next